Toronto Raptors as a dysfunctional, bad vibes mess. Now, in the preseason, I think you and I had pretty significant doubts about Toronto. Whether it was the loss
Yeah.
of Fred VanVleet, the weird media day comments from Masai about Pascal, the impending free agencies for like half the roster, it just all felt very combustible. So then they have this opening night game. They're at home against a Minnesota team that many people are very high on. And, the Raptors offense certainly didn't cause me to rethink anything. The Raptors offense is going to be a work in progress. But
Yep.
defensively, they looked pretty terrifying. And
Yeah, they
maybe it
did.
was just getting tired of Nick Nurse last season, but it just felt like the Raptors kind of lost some of their identity last year, lost some of their mojo. I mean, you'd look at the roster and you'd be like, why is this not like one of the
Yeah, this
elite
should be
defensive
better.
teams in the league?
Yeah.
And last night, like kind of across the board, and man, I kind of not making fun, but like looking at the drop off from Fred Van Vliet to Dennis Schroeder, it was like, wow, like they really screwed this up. On the other
Mhm.
hand, like Schroeder does fit in kind of well with this version of the Raptors. And then you look at someone like Scotty Barnes, whose defense has been maligned over his first two seasons. And he didn't have a perfect game, but he was 3 steals away from a 5-by-5, Andrew. We could have had a
I know.
game 1 5-by-5, which
That would have
is
been so exciting.
which is one of our favorite stat lines because it is so incredibly rare and is such a
Yeah.
cool thing to get. And he is definitely on the radar now. If you get that
Yeah.
close, like now I'm kind of feeling it. I'm kind of hoping we get a 5-by-5. But I don't know. After that game, I'm thinking back to last week with our surprise team, and Toronto just missed the cut because their over-under
Yeah.
was 36.5. If they had been 35.5 and we could have potentially picked them, I compare them to some of these other teams we were looking at. And like, I feel pretty confident that the Toronto Raptors have something. They have a defensive identity. Whereas these other teams, I'm kind of just hoping for it. And after game 1, I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit better about the Raptors overall. And shout out to their new coach, because that was another piece of it that we just didn't know how that was going to play out. Those the post-game vibes in the locker room just looked incredible. And it
Yeah.
seemed like that was the big thing that was missing last year. So yeah, I'm rethinking the Raptors a little bit.
Yeah, I am too. They didn't even play well. They only shot 40% from the field in that game. This is a very low scoring game. It was 97-94, which is very unusual in this day and age, but they can play better than that. Like Scotty's going to play better than that offensively. OG is going to be better. Siakam was only 5 of 17. Like we know that Pascal Siakam can be better than that. So there's a little bit of a ceiling here. Then you have Gary Trent Jr. coming off the bench. You got Grady Dick, who just barely played at all. But, it's fun. There are fun vibes around the Raptors again. And I think that's only a good thing. Because when the Raptors are good, the NBA is more fun. So I'm excited for this era of the Raptors. And then, like, on the other side, the Timberwolves were kind of a mess. Like, there seemed to be a lot of agendas going on in Minnesota. So that's something to just put a pin in a little bit. It was a little bit strange to me.